There they are, perfectly preserved sand fleas in a high concentration of salinity water. When you're doing this, you just keep them in the freezer. Take out the ones you want to bring surf fishing with you and put it back in the freezer. They will not freeze and they'll stay perfectly preserved. Another way to preserve those sand fleas. All right, it's early morning before work. I'm tired, I'm just waking up. But I need to preserve some sand fleas that I caught over the weekend that I won't be able to use until 6 days later. This is a method that I learned from NOEL KHUN, thesurfangler.com. thesurfangler.com. I'll also leave a link in the description to his webpage, but also the Facebook post where he describes how to use a high concentrated salinity water that won't freeze, but you can keep in the freezer and pop your sand fleas in that high salinity water, and they're good as fresh. How to do that starts right now. So what you'll need to get this done is a 3-pound box of coarse kosher salt, a small pot of water, maybe bigger if you have more sand fleas, filled about halfway, and then you want to put it on about medium-high as you dissolve the salt. You'll also need some kind of stirring device like a whisk, and you'll need something to put the actual sand fleas in. Dump in a nice heaping portion of kosher salt. I don't have the ratios, but just keep it going. I'll have to do it again too, I'm sure. And then you'll just start whisking it. And as you whisk it, the water will become milky. And you know the solution is finished when there is absolutely no more milky water. It will be clear, and there'll actually be some coarse salt sediment at the bottom because this water has reached its capacity to take in salt. So keep whisking. Here it is, clearing up a little bit. We're gonna whisk it some more. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pour some more kosher salt in here, and it should get cloudy again, signifying that there is more capacity in the water to dissolve the kosher salt. This will probably be the last time that I'll need to actually put any more salt in this solution. Keep whisking. Whoa, there you go. Look how salty that is, sizzling away. And you can see that the cloudiness, the appearance is virtually gone. That water has heated up. You can see the steam. And so this solution is done. What we're going to do is we're going to let this cool off before we put sand fleas in the high salinity content solution. Don't worry about the extra salt there. It will remain. Turn the eye off. We're going to let this cool probably for about 20 minutes before we start putting in the actual sand fleas. All right, it's cooled down enough. I'm actually going to use glass container, a mason jar. I don't suggest you using this, but it's all I had right now. We're just going to drain and pour all the water into the mason jar and as much as the salt as we can in there as well. And once that's full, we'll go outside where it's not going to be indoors, and we'll take care of putting the sand fleas in the actual solution. Rinse your sand fleas off in fresh water by the hose in a strainer or colander, and just begin to dump them in there. And they'll probably float at first just because they're not absorbing any of the salt content. So just fill up the entire mason jar with the sand fleas. If you have too much water, you're welcome to pour some of that water out. And we just keep putting all the sand fleas in the actual solution. Once we're done, we'll put the top back on. A plastic Tupperware container is probably ideal. I didn't have one. We're just gonna shake it up a little bit just to get that salt worked up and just to dilute any more of the actual physical salt into the water. It probably won't turn cloudy because, like I said, this is already completely filled with salinity salt content to the max. Let's put it in the fridge. All right, let's open the fridge up. See the salt concentrated water and the sand fleas. Those have been in there for about 7 hours in the freezer. As you can see, that water is not frozen and the sand fleas are preserved. Let's step outside, look at it under natural light, set it down so we can see a little bit better. There they are, perfectly preserved sand fleas in a high concentration of salinity water. When you're doing this, you just keep them in the freezer. Take out the ones you want to bring surf fishing with you and put it back in the freezer. They will not freeze and they'll stay perfectly preserved. Another way to preserve those sand fleas is pretty simple and pretty easy and pretty inexpensive. Thank you to Noel KHUN. Check him out, thesurfangler.com, and I will also put a link in the description of how to find this exact method, his method of preserving sand fleas on Facebook. Be on the lookout in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Join me next time right here when we preserve sand fleas and excite to strike. God bless.